Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Wednesday, October 9th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Oregon game is in 3 days. The game against Michigan in 52 days. Going to welcome in Ross Fulton, one of the X's and O's gurus at BuckeyeHuddle.com today. And when we have Ross on the show, we are sponsored by Jeff Ruby's Steakhouse, the award-winning upscale steakhouse in downtown Columbus, named one of the top 50 steakhouses in America by Food Network. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus, check out the menu, and make a reservation today. Buckeyes made a reservation in the end zone a few times last Saturday against a pretty stout Iowa defense. It was not always easy. It was not always pretty, but they got the job done eventually. Thanks in no large part to Chip Kelly getting into his bag quite a bit. Today we're going to be looking at some of the stuff that worked against Iowa and some of the stuff that may be something that is sort of key stuff to keep an eye out for this weekend against Oregon. And Ross, we're going to start with a series of plays. It's all the same basic principles. Out of the pistol, it's inside zone, but it's a lot of different ways that the Buckeyes can use that to attack the defense. So let's start with the first one where they're going up against cover 3.
Yeah, so each week we just see sort of new and different things from Chip Kelly. And so on Saturday against Iowa, they used a lot of pistol, I think more so than we've seen up to this point this season. My guess is that they expected and guessed correctly that in response to pistol looks, which running back lined up directly behind the quarterback in shotgun, Iowa would roll from they are base out of a cover 4 quarters look, that they would roll to a lot of cover 3, so bring a safety down because it's a more run heavy look. And as we've talked about in the past, at times under Ryan Day was a very run heavy look, and so they were sort of anticipating that cover 3 and worked a lot off of that. And so, yeah, a lot of, this first play is just an inside zone, right? So everyone's zone blocking. A couple interesting things about it is the quarterback's actually opening up away from the handoff. And so we saw that a lot on Saturday, both not only just with inside zone from pistol, but also counter. I think this gives a couple, it's another interesting Chip Kelly wrinkle. Couple different pieces to it. It does, by opening up, it does hold the backside linebacker. So it's just another constraint on the linebackers themselves. It creates a natural bend back for the tailback. But by opening up to the backside, also, as we'll see, it opens up the possibility of using RPOs and run reads. And so, we saw this inside zone play from pistol a lot Saturday, different window dressing to it. On this example, for instance, they fake a fly sweep, and you'll see the backside linebacker have to widen for that. So they faked that a couple times. Sometimes they ran it, trips opposite, and so Iowa would have to put 4 over 3. But like all these things, like again, the offensive line is blocking these zone combinations better than they did last year. A lot of that is Seth McLaughlin at center. Like on this rep, you see him, he's really good at he'll punch defensive tackle to help out, then climb to the second level. So you're getting a lot of locking up second level run defenders. They are putting a lot on the offensive guards in these looks. Like we talked about this against Michigan State as well, to be able to maintain single blocks and sort of keep integrity inside. But the offensive line blocking is just being helped by they're getting much cleaner looks, right? Because defenses have to respect the backside run threat, the backside RPO threat, all these different things, this fly sweep action. So it's much easier for identifying blocks, for aiming points. And there's just less defenses can do less games inside because they have to worry about, what could happen on the perimeter.
All right, so that's a nice sort of straightforward one, it feels like. Now let's move on to sort of the next iteration. Now they're going to be throwing this. You're going to see Will Howard bootleg out on this one. This is the first Emeka Egbuka touchdown of the day. If you were listening and not watching, that's the play we're talking about here, as Ross is describing it. So go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And so as I've said in previous seasons, there were times when Ohio State would be 95+% run from the pistol. That is not the case this year. They got in this early. They ran the first 3rd and 1 conversion to Trayvon Henderson on this opening drive, was this pistol inside zone. And then they come right off of it, right, and run a bootleg off. So, again, showing this inside quarterback opens up the backside, showing the same inside action, but now you're just running a flood concept, which just means you're, attacking 3 levels to the edge. A lot of what we saw on Saturday in the pass game was getting Emeka Egbuka in the slot on, linebackers or nickels overhangs in Iowa's cover 4 because they'd have to carry receivers or even safeties. So, here you get the cover 4 Iowa safety and Emeka gets leverage on him, beats him to the corner. So you could tell on Saturday, it's just sort of as a digression, like they missed Carnell Tate. Like it does limit, I think, having like 3 viable receiving options from one side to the other makes a big difference. But I can understand why, they don't want to take Emeka Egbuka out of the slot because he's just so critical there, both like on the relief and RPO plays, but also just like the matchups that they can create. We saw that here. We saw it on all his touchdowns. And so when you can get him singled up on interior defenders.
All right. So now you had a run, you've had the handoff, nice successful play. You've had the pass, nice successful play. Now here's the third iteration. Here, this one, Will Howard's going to make a read. He's going to keep it, and he's going to have another nice gain here.
Yeah. So as I said, they kept, iterating off the same concept all game, right? And pretty consistently could expect that they would get cover 3 looks against it and attack it. And so, the series before this, they ran a RPO off of it where Egbuka ran like quick out route, got like 15 yards off of that. But we saw much more of Will Howard as a runner on Saturday against Iowa than we have seen this year. Obviously, that was both on design runs. They ran that boundary pin and pull a couple times from empty. The one was blocked up really well. Will Howard slipped. Obviously, the 4th and 1 that was stopped was a less successful variation of inside zone with the QB. Again, you're just trying to get numbers. But also, he was pretty successful on read plays. And so, again, by opening up backside, you get this everyone blocking down. And now Howard, he's actually not reading the defensive end. He's reading that overhang defender. So, we talk about that a lot, that linebacker who's sort of outside the offensive tackle or nickel. That guy crashes down to play the run. And so Howard keeps. And so, I thought he was a little tentative, to be honest, on some of the design quarterback runs. I would have liked to have seen him, commit a little bit quicker and cut up field. But I thought he was very effective and has been all season on these read plays, right? Like he's very adept at reading them and then getting outside of the contain quickly and upfield. And, saw that on his touchdown run again, saw that here. So, you're both taking advantage. I think we'll see more of him in the run game against Oregon as a continuation of that, especially against some like the odd front looks that Oregon likes to use. But also, again, like just making plays look alike. So it's like, yes, the offensive line's playing better. Yes, the running game has 2 really good running backs. Like Quinshon Judkins had that great straight arm in the hole on all Big Ten linebacker. But also like just the run game is just being made so much more effective by protecting it with these constraint plays and from the same formations and the same design. And so, again, you can see it from the backside of this play as well as, the offensive line all blocks up inside zone and Will Howard just able to read the Iowa overhang. And, as soon as he commits to the run, he's able to keep.
One of the things we warned you about on this show last week was it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. They're not going to have a whole lot of high flying downfield passing. Iowa is just they're going to try and spend a lot of the time trying to take that away. They definitely spent a good bit of Saturday trying to take that away. It eventually worked. We'll get there later. But first, we're going to take a look at some of the things that Iowa was trying to do to take away some of that downfield passing stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny because this is like always the danger of saying things live. After my first watch, I was like, well, it seemed like an awful lot of sort of like short curl routes and whatnot against cover 4, which is not really what you would expect. But as I said, the things Ohio State was doing, Iowa was actually giving them a lot of cover 3 and a lot of zone blitz looks, probably try to create some disruption. And so, what we saw made actually a lot of sense because Iowa, as you said, like Iowa's a very good defense. Like, Ohio State had quite a bit of success against it. But what makes them a very sound defense is they do not want to get beat deep, right? And they know that they or I assume they know that they don't have the athletes to match up to Jeremiah Smith one-on-one. And so they were making every effort to ensure that he did not get downfield. And so, this concept is sort of a good example of it, right? And so they did this a couple of times. They'd send Ibuka in this pre-snap motion and get him basically stacked behind Jeremiah Smith. This gives gives him a free release. And this is just essentially a smash concept, or a China, some people call it. So like Smith's running a deep corner route and Ibuka's just running an underneath hitch, right? And like you can see from Will Howard's progressions here, like he wants to get the football downfield. Like I feel like there was a lot of effort coming out in the second half. Like we have to create some explosive plays. Like Howard is like, he's great at like when he sees like that first initial, like if that 8-yard curl's there, like that ball's out, right? And he throws it accurately. I know there's been some frustration with him pushing the football down the field, or concern, I guess would be maybe the better word. I just didn't see a lot there that, like, at least early on in this game, where it was like, oh, that downfield throw was there. Like he should have taken it. Like they were doing a lot of things to keep Jeremiah Smith in check. Like here, the linebacker carries Smith deep, and then that corner is just sinking and getting more and more depth. And so he takes the right throw here. On his interception, he actually had Ibuka had leverage. That was more a case like where like he had a linebacker on him again. Like he was breaking it outside. Like that throw was probably a second late. And then Howard was sort of, if you go back and watch, like Iowa did get pressure on that instance, and he didn't fully step into his throw. He was kind of anticipating the contact. I think that resulted in him probably being a hair late and inside with that throw, which is all it took. But you could see they were like doing things to get Jeremiah Smith the ball early because they were having trouble getting to him downfield, with the great tunnel screen that unfortunately for them resulted in a fumble or the reverse. So that's why you got a lot of Emeka Egbuka, especially without Tate, like being able to work these underneath areas. But like, as we'll see here, they kept trying to iterate and finally were able to break Iowa, so to speak, down the field.
Yeah, this next one is that long touchdown pass, not touchdown, but almost touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith, kind of a double move. And I think it was Ryan Day during the postgame talked about the fact that, it's great, do a double move. It worked great. Boy, you got to protect quite a while to get to keep Will Howard clean, to be able to get that ball and drive that ball down the field. So, there is a why as to why they don't run this all the time, but it certainly worked in this case.
Yeah. And so it's funny, like, the protection, I want to highlight on this. And as I said, like he looked for him. This is all the same drive, right? So he looked for him on that corner route. He went down below. Then people may remember it was like 2nd and 1, and Will Howard kind of rolled out and he ended up going out of bounds. And I remember at the time being like, well, just throw the ball away. Like, what are you doing? But like the concept actually was like he was faking like he was keeping on his own read, and he sort of tucked the football like he was going to run. And Emeka was running a wheel route. And Iowa covered it, right? And so it was like kind of a one-read play. And so again, they were trying to mess with Iowa, put players in conflict, and they finally get it here, right? So Iowa actually runs a two-man under, or 2 deep man under, which is sometimes called cover 5. So like, you have 5 defenders on the interior, or on the 5 receivers, and then you have the 2 deep safeties, which is a difficult concept to pass on. They're able to do it here by, again, this sort of Smith gives the stutter right at the safety, makes him bite, and then go. I know Day was. I saw some people complain about this throw from Howard. I know Day post game was happy with it, where he put this ball and threw it. I mean, it's a long throw, right? Jeremiah Smith can move pretty quickly, so I think it was a pretty successful play. But as you said, like the protection as well, like the pass protection continues to be stellar. And I think one area where they've really improved this year is handling stunts up front. And so like you can see it here. So like Iowa they kind of loop around the defensive end. And Donovan Jackson, like, Ohio State's like in a 5-man, you don't have any running back help here, really. They loop inside. Donovan Jackson passes off the defensive tackle going inside of him to Seth McLaughlin. And then he's there ready to pick up the defensive end looping around. And so you see just a lot of coordination. Obviously, these guys have a lot of starts now. They have both Justin Fry and Chip Kelly and Tim Drevno there. I think these things are all making a difference. But, bigger picture, once they hit that pass to Jeremiah Smith, as I said, that sort of opened everything else up. From there, I think they were able to hit some more explosives.
And the last thing we're going to do, not explosive, but efficient, effective, and something we might see a little later on this week. This is one of those plays on fourth down where the Buckeyes were successful. They picked up a couple of very important fourth downs during that Iowa game. Might be something they have to do on the road this weekend in Eugene as well. So let's run through this last one.
Yeah, and so this is really where Will Howard thrives, I think. This is a great play call here, right? It's 4th and 3 or 4th and 2. Iowa obviously is expecting run. They're in a type of cover 4, but a really aggressive one. It may even be cover 0. They have both, the one safety to the boundary comes down pre-snap. The one to the field comes down post-snap. And so we talked about this once before. This is like a third level RPO with a glance route, which is just sort of a way of saying that somewhere between a slant and a skinny post, the guy's breaking to the inside. And Howard is turning his back, right, at the snap. But he is reading that safety pre-snap. And then probably confirming he's probably, he's looking at that safety for people watching on YouTube, looking as he's putting the ball in the running back's belly to confirm. But he's really accurate on these. And, again, Oregon likes to be pretty nosy with their linebackers. Their linebackers like to play downhill. They count on them to clean up a lot, and they run a lot of coverage variations. That has the benefit of the disguise elements and keeping people off balance, has the downside for Oregon of it can lead to bust in the secondary or confusion, which can create opportunities for explosive plays. And so this is again, no player's perfect, right? Howard's just really accurate on these throws. As Ryan Day also pointed out points post game, he's really accurate on those throws in the end zone. Those are tight windows when you get inside the 10-yard line or inside the red zone. Ohio State's had really good quarterbacks in the past where they've sort of sputtered out down there. And so, on that wheel route to Ibuka where, Ohio State again got a safety singled up on him with a cover 4 variation where he looped around and, that carried the, safety and corner coverage and got him on a linebacker. But that was just a great throw, great catch, obviously, as well. And so that's part of why, as much as the Chip Kelly, the run reads, the RPOs in the red zone have cleaned up the blocking. It's also just precision in the passing game as well. So Howard is very accurate on those intermediate throws. So there's some trade offs obviously with arm strength downfield versus intermediate accuracy. But I again circling back to Oregon, that will, I think, both in the red zone, this kind of RPO concept as well as. I think they'll continue to lean into the run reads, especially near the goal line. They had it, they did Howard scored on one. They ran that midline concept again. We discussed where, they'll read the defensive tackle and block out the defensive end. And so I just think this is obviously a game. If you're going to utilize your quarterback in the run game, you do it more so in these type of games, particularly, as I said, against all the odd fronts that Oregon will play. Mix it with inside zone.
Yeah, I always go back to the JT Barrett years where they would run JT Barrett twice against Kent State and then 20 times against Penn State. We'll see if it's 20 times this weekend, but you're probably going to see, as you said, a lot more of Will Howard in the run game this week. It is going to be a fascinating matchup with the Oregon Ducks out there, shaping up to be a great game. Number 2 versus number 3 in the country. Point spread pretty tight. It should be a banger in Eugene on Saturday night. We will be there for all of it. We'll be out there starting on Thursday evening with lots of live coverage for you out in Oregon in the lead up to and the aftermath of that number 2 versus number 3 game. We got more coverage coming for you as well from Ross. We got the defense show that'll be up tomorrow. Take a little bit of a deep dive on the Ohio State defense, what worked against Iowa, what didn't work, and more importantly, what it all means against the Ducks this Saturday. Lots of coverage for you all this week at BuckeyeHuddle.com, where we have our whole team of insiders. Tony, Kevin, and I covering the team. Mark covering recruiting. Our whole team of X's and O's gurus there to make you a smarter football fan. That's all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And also, of course, at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Lots of content there as well. Make sure you're subscribed there. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified when we do those live shows out there. There's going to be a ton of content this week. It is a big game week, which means it is a big content week for all of us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We hope to see you there. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.